Individuals about to face the difficult moments of divorce should consider alternatives to the expensive and time-consuming process of divorcing in courts. Today we have divorce mediator Don Sinkov, who will talk us through some of the alternatives that can accomplish the greater good by finding resolutions through mediation without losing much of the couple's resources. Welcome, Don Sinkov.
Thank you, Chris.
Let's start with grounds. It's an interesting and important thing to talk about. What are the grounds for divorce? And it is a no fault too. You can continue with that. Go ahead.
So there are 6 grounds for divorce in New York, and they've been established for many years: abandonment, constructive abandonment, cruel and inhumane treatment, imprisonment for 5 years or more. Those are some of the grounds. These are the typical grounds that an attorney would file under. But now, finally, New York has signed into the new no-fault process. So there is a 7th ground for divorce in New York, and that is one of the spouses stating that for the prior 6 months, the marriage has been irretrievably broken with no hopes of reconciliation. And they will allow the divorce to go on those grounds now.
Is that just an affidavit or a letter?
It is an affidavit, and it's no longer accusing the other spouse of fault. So you don't have to accuse the other spouse of cheating or, doing something horrible. It's just, we want to get divorced. Let's file under the 7th ground.
And that takes the place of irreconcilable differences, or is irreconcilable differences?
It really is.
It really is the same
Yes.
thing. Okay. Let's describe the forms of dispute resolution, beginning with mediation, the primary focus of this program today.
So mediation is a very kind, gentle process. I meet with the couple. I explain to them that they can settle everything for first their legal settlement agreement, the agreement that addresses the children, money, alimony, all the assets of the marriage, distribution. New York is an equitable distribution state. Assets are divided as to how the couple sees is fair and equitable. All the issues regarding the children, it's much better to decide in mediation. If you're in a litigation, how are you possibly going to be parents to these children going forward if you're litigating a case and you get so angry at the other spouse, but you have this ongoing relationship with the children forever?
Yeah.
I mean, so mediation just makes so much more sense.
You become alienated in court, and of course the parent.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Let's see. There's collaborative is another style of divorce. Maybe we should go into that a little bit. What's the differences between collaborative and litigation?
Mm-hmm. Collaborative law was started in the 1990s by a fellow named Webb, and what it is the litigating attorneys will now sign an agreement that under no circumstances will they take this to litigation, that they'll try to settle the case. But when you have lawyers that 4 days a week they do litigation, on the 5th day they suddenly become collaborative lawyers. They're trained in an adversarial system. They only know how to be adversaries. And they'll agree to do collaborative law, but it often takes much longer, and they have this conflict going on because they want to individually represent their client and advise them, but they also don't want to get to the point of litigation.
That would ordinarily be their job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's how they're trained. So there's an inherent conflict in doing collaborative law. Yeah. And it costs way more than mediation costs.
By a long shot. And there's a collaborative law group. It's a different?
Right. Collaborative law group is a team approach. Each of the spouses has access to a therapist, a coach, an attorney, a CPA, maybe another professional that the collaborative law group might recommend.
What is called forensics often?
Possibly. They could get a forensic evaluator in there. They can get a number of people in there. So could you imagine if each of the spouses has 5 or 6 professionals, what the cost would be? And when I go to these conferences given by collaborative law groups, I ask the question, what's the cost of this? And they often tell me it's very similar to litigation.
Court divorces are called litigated divorces. What would the client's perspective be in a litigation? Client's perspective.
Right. Well, it's really awful. You have 2 attorneys that are there to zealously advocate for their client. In other words, they will advocate and they don't care who gets hurt. So if the other spouse gets hurt, if the children are hurt by this, if it creates this warlike atmosphere, and it often takes, a couple of years for a litigated case to finally finish a trial and for a judge to issue an order and make decisions on how the couple will split the assets.
And that's
of the
sometimes a
marriage.
lifetime. And a mediation rarely takes any longer than a couple of months, right, ordinarily?
Yeah, my average case from beginning to end in mediation is about 6 weeks.
Right. And that's amazing. What a difference, right? 3 years to 6 weeks?
People that come to me want that process. They don't want the 2-year process. They want the 6-week process. They've suffered enough.
What do you mean when you say divorce professionals choose mediation over the other choices? I think this is an important question.
Yeah, it's also kind of ironic that I get so many clients who are attorneys. Usually not divorce attorneys, but just attorneys in various areas other than divorce. And I always ask them the same question. I'm a mediator. I'm not an attorney. Why would you come to me? And they almost, to the word, give the same answer, which is, we don't want to spend a fortune on our divorce. We want it over quickly and amicably, and we want to be in control of making the decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look at that, huh? You mentioned before, anecdotally, there's a case, Hope Zimmerman. You want to refer to that, please?
So one of the reasons you don't want to go to litigation. So Judge Hope Zimmerman, who was a former supervising judge of the Nassau Family Court, says that when she gets clients before her and they want her to make determinations about what happens with their children, she asks the mother, "So Mom, tell me, do you love your children?" And the mother always says yes. And turns to the father, and Judge Zimmerman says, "Now, Father, do you love your children?" And he always says yes. And she says, "Well, I don't love your children. I don't know your children, and you want me to make decisions for them, lifelong decisions?" So that doesn't make sense. Go decide it yourself, then come back when you're done.
Somebody made some sense there, huh?
She makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's unusual. I think it seems like the whole entire bureaucracy of divorce wants to exclude mediators. As my reaction to this whole thing is, we have so much opportunity as mediators, don't we? I mean, to take care of
Absolutely.
the families that come through.
Until very recently, you'd never find a mediator in the court. Now I've gotten cases from Supreme Court this year for the first time where judges are just starting to refer cases to mediation. And I've had 2 cases and settled both of them, as I hear from other mediators that they have successfully settled a lot of cases that they get from court.
What do you think the primary objective of the courts not doing that?
Not doing it?
Yeah.
The matrimonial bar and the bar in general is very strong. It has a lot of political force behind them. They have lots of money and they have lobbyists. But I think that the public is really starting to push to have an alternative to litigation. I think they're becoming aware. I think they're getting smart. And I think they're finding out from people that have been through mediation that this alternative works really well. There are some cases that need to be litigated, but for the most part, mediation is the way to go.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.